Hello everyone, my name is Moji. You're watching a Bitcoin bubble news channel. Bitcoin falls into the risk-on group. Sometimes it looks like, oh wait, it's not risk-on because it's not doing with the SP, the Nasdaq, or Nvidia. Okay, it's still trying to figure things out, which is fine. But this is why charts are so important for traders and investors. If you look at the charts, you won't have to wonder why it's not doing that. We were just pulled in by the chart. It never seemed to be true above this line. That means it was still in weak form. It has, in fact, come back in. Bitcoin bubble stands out because it is clear and easy to understand. There's no limit to who can join, no matter how much they know about crypto or how new they are to it. Guess who is watching us now? Robert Kiyosaki is the author of the best-selling book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We'd also like to thank everyone who put their trust in us. We read all of your comments, and the best part is that it's free. If you sign up now, you'll get all the new information for free. Stay ahead of the trends instead of just following them. Sign up for Bitcoin Bubble right now and enjoy the new edge. Let's watch this movie with Gareth to learn more about Bitcoin and other things. There is already economic news here, but you can see that the markets are going down before they open. I want to make it clear that this isn't a big move yet. It's not a big deal in the grand order of things. We closed yesterday at 553 right here. Right now the price is around 550.75. That's a drop of just over $2 in the SPY. That's the same as the SP 500 going down about $22 to $25. Starting to build homes and getting building permits did happen today. We got 1.24 million building starts. People thought the number would be 1.34, so that was a lower economic number. And 1.4 million building permits instead of the 1.43 million that were projected. Actually, neither of today's home numbers were as good as were thought. But I need to be clear about this, right? In the mass media, they say things like, oh, mortgage rates dropped a little bit. This is great. I mean, come on. The cost of housing is still crazy high. The economy is going down, which is bad for consumers. I'm sorry to say this, but lowering the 30-year return by 30 basis points won't change anything for the average American. I think everyone who is watching agrees with that. For the housing market to really start moving again, there needs to be a much bigger drop in either home prices or interest rates. I believe the most important thing here is that the home market is still weak, as shown by today's economic numbers. I just read that it's the lowest level of new goods being built since 2009 for the most part. To say it again, the makers of homes know this is going to happen. I was just looking at the list for Toll Brothers. Let's take a look at this. It's already on the homepage, but I was looking at the Toll Brothers chart, and the daily Toll Brothers chart is a standard bear flag. Isn't it classic? Okay, let's take a look at this. First, Toll goes up, then it goes down, and finally look at this cute little negative flag pattern that forms. Next week, they report their earnings. I'm really interested in hearing from them next week, but first I need to think about where the stock is moving. Guys, let's zoom out on this picture and look at this vertical move in the stock price from 2023 to now. Also, I'm now on the weekly chart. Then, if we look at the daily chart again, we see that lovely bearish pattern that will last until next week's earnings. I believe it's Tuesday after the market closes. We'll get those numbers on Tuesday after the market closes. Okay, going back to the daily picture for the SP 500. Robert Kiyosaki says that the market is going to crash soon and tells people to put their money in gold, silver, and Bitcoin and not trust the Federal Reserve. Rich Dad, Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki says that a huge market crash is coming and that people should get ready for a crash landing that could lead to a slump. Kiyosaki calls Vice President Kamala Harris, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, and Fed Chairman Jerome Powell the Three Stooges and says they are to blame for the economy of the country. Kiyosaki tells his followers not to depend on the Federal Reserve because he thinks that it is the cause of all economic problems. Instead, he stresses how important it is to get ready for the coming financial problems. Kiyosaki says that to protect yourself from the possible crash, you should invest in real assets like gold, silver, and Bitcoin. He says that these are safer options than depending on what the government does. Kiyosaki talks about how important it is to plan by talking about his time as a helicopter pilot in Vietnam and how good planning helped him stay alive during the war. He draws a comparison between this and the current state of the economy and tells others to get ready in the same way. Again, let me get rid of those economic numbers that are there. Yesterday, the SP 500 went through my zone of death or danger zone and went through it very quickly. This idea is known as a river theory, and the river idea is something I came up with. It's not in any book, but I'm going to tell you about it now. What the river theory basically tells you, and it's very Everything I come up with is very real. Being able to compare it to something else makes it very clear. Okay, let's say we get to a big river. So there's this huge river. As you walk, you need to cross the river. It's like the Amazon or the Mississippi when you get there. It's just a huge river, you know. You're like, okay, crap, I got to swim over this. I'm going to be worn out, I could drown, I might not get through. That's then resistance, right? The river stands in the way. The next thing that comes to mind is, okay, forget about this, I'm going to go back around. And that's when you hit a block, like the danger zone. You hit it and think, man, 3 trend lines coming together here is just too much for me, so you turn around. Alternatively, you could use a river theory, which means you say something like, oh, look, there's a bridge I can skip, jump, and hop over the bridge to get across the river. And I still have a lot of energy to keep running that way. Okay, there you have it, the idea. That's what we saw yesterday. The market just broke through this level, if we see this. In fact, it just gapped above it, and you can see how it kept going up until it hit the 786 Fibonacci. Again, when you gap above a major level that should be resistance or below a major support, that can mean that you stay in that direction for a short time because you didn't use enough energy to push through that resistance or swim across that big river. This, once more, explains why we were able to do push-ups yesterday. But surprise, what did we do? We started with the 786 Fibonacci right away. We're now seeing a little slowdown. Going back to the middle of the day, you can see that there is a small bounce off the lows. Still, nice little fade this morning as it got lighter outside. In about 24 minutes, the markets will open. Okay, the NASDAQ 100 shows the same thing. This is a nice little flip. We saw Nvidia green in the morning, but it has been red since then. In that moment, the market really began to fall more severely. There's a little bounce here. If you're a member of smart money stocks and ETFs, you already know about the last day or so. I've been collecting stocks, which is 3 times less than semis. We've been building up QE'd, SDS, and volatility. SDS is short both the NASDAQ and the SP. MicroStrategy now has 226,500 BTC worth of Bitcoin, which is a 61% return. This is almost the same amount of money that the company could have made by investing in Ethereum. MicroStrategy has gathered 226,500 Bitcoin, which is worth $13.4 billion right now, and is being run by Michael Saylor. It took $8.353 billion, or $36,907 per BTC, for the company to buy these shares. The business's Bitcoin investment has grown by 61%, which is almost the same as the possible 63% profit it could have made by investing in Ethereum instead. Block says there is no measure that is second best. MicroStrategy would have bought about 5.21 million Ethereum if it had invested in the cryptocurrency. That's right, it's worth $206 million more than the Bitcoin it already has. MicroStrategy could have won an extra 535,672 Ethereum if it had decided to bet Ethereum right away. The total possible value goes up to $14.9 billion when you add $1.39 billion to the theoretical earnings. Ethereum was once thought to be a possibly more profitable choice. However, the growing difference in returns between Bitcoin and Ethereum shows how well Bitcoin is doing in MicroStrategy.